After my flesh father passed away, the way that I dealt with it, when other people talk to me about their parents passing away, I said, eventually, no matter how deep something is, no matter how much you care or love something, eventually it becomes a memory. Eventually, it doesn't really feel anything. And I've gotten to points now where when the anniversary of my flesh father's death would happen when I was younger, I would make it a big deal. I would, mourn and I would do stuff. And I think this or last year, I actually forgot about it, which made me feel really guilty. I remember thinking, what the hell? How could I forget? This is such a big day. But life went on because it's been almost 20 years. Life goes on. Everybody deals with grief very differently too. I remember after my flesh father passed away, I would get kind of mad at some people. Again, I was absolutely not healed and I was very, different than I am today. And I would drink a lot. So I would get mad at some people sometimes if they were mean about their dads or things like that. I would get really upset. And now I really do not mind. People can have their own. It was one of those like, oh, since mine is away, how dare you not respect yours? But it's like, that's not, my dad isn't their dad. They have every right not to respect their father if they want to. That's their business. I didn't respect my father when he was around, right? Like it's hello? I'm telling you though, I remember when he passed, the pain was so big. And I thought I genuinely thought I would never get over it. And not to be dramatic, I'm a little bit dramatic, as you might know. I genuinely remember thinking, it's going to hurt forever. It's never going to end. It's never going to end. It's going to hurt like that forever. Guess what? It doesn't. It doesn't. It really doesn't hurt like that forever. And eventually the way it happened is it hurt a lot all the time. And then it hurt less all the time. And then it stopped hurting all the time. But it would hurt a lot in small pangs. It would hurt a lot before my birthday. It would hurt a lot before Christmas. I still remember, I think when COVID started was the last time when I joined my job in Hollywood was the last time it really hit me where I thought, I wonder if he would be proud. That kind of pain, But now it's just so not, I've lived such a long life without it that it doesn't really matter. And also, I think when you're very young, you think your parents know everything and you think your parents are so good. But now that I'm much older and I'm remembering my flesh father's last few years of life, there was a lot of troubles there. And I don't think it would have gotten better if he stayed around. Sorry, grief is a strange thing. Grief is such a strange thing because you won't think about it ever. And then one day you'll just have a memory of something that you did with that person 40 years ago and you start bawling your eyes out. That's grief for you, baby. Realizing your parents are just people, it's kind of its own loss of innocence. Yeah. And they're just people, but they still have more life experience than you, more. Think about how much smarter you are now than you were 10 years ago, I hope. And then think about your parents who probably have 20 to 40 years on top of you. Of course they're going to have, but even like some of your closest friends that sometimes get into, maybe they read a book, maybe they make something too much of their personality. They can be wrong too. It's rough because when it comes to my flesh father, I've very much gotten myself to that point where I know it's for I want to be very careful with how I address it because like I said before, when people would talk about their father in a negative way, it would upset me after I lost mine. My father was not okay mentally his last few years of life. And it took me years to forgive him, but I did. Now I did, it's fine. But he was extremely abusive and again, not physically because he was in a wheelchair, but there are other ways to be abusive. And I've also even went so far that now I'm even grateful that it got me to be such a strong, resilient woman that I am I do everything for myself all the time. I am very much like, if I go on any trip, I book everything. I know where I'm going. I know where I'm staying. I know where I'm eating. I know where I'm like, I don't rely on anything on anybody for anything at all. It makes it really hard. It actually makes it kind of hard to date because I don't need a husband for anything. And it's hard because, you know, if you are a husband, you want to like take care of me, you know, you want to make my life easier. You want to help. And I'm very much like, if you don't answer me by a certain time to make plans, I made my own plans. I'm not waiting on anybody. I'm not doing any, you know, that's probably the only place where it makes it hard, but not for me, for them. For me, it's easy. I'm a strong, independent woman. For me, I'm good. But it's gotten easier for me because I realized that if he was still alive, his mental health would only be worse. And so I don't think I've said this on stream before, but I genuinely believe if my flesh father was still alive, he would dox me. Genuinely. Like, if I wouldn't pick up his phone call, he would come to my stream and reveal my personal phone number or information or stuff like that. Because he already had traits of doing that 20 years ago. He was already doing things like that 20 years ago when I would be playing online games or things like that. And I just don't think his mental health, you know, it doesn't improve. It doesn't go like, ooh, now your mental health is amazing. So that's why for me, it's been a little bit easier to kind of deal with that, where it's like, well, yeah, it was bad though. He was in a wheelchair and he was like, end of his life was rough. Like you'd have full on conversations with him and then he'd lie to you and tell you that they never happened. And you would tell him, you'd be like, but we were here. We everybody was present for this conversation. And he'd be like, no, it never happened. I don't know what you're talking about. Which again, made it so now whenever I catch people in big lies or anything, or people give me a weird vibe about stuff, I'm like, this is weird. I'm getting out of here. I guess for me, it's not so much my independence. The thing that I really have to let go of is the need to organize and do everything. Because when I do that, I kind of leave no place for another person to come in and do stuff. I don't really, and not that it's important for me right now to leave that place in my life. Right now, that place in my life is occupied by vshojo. It's occupied by my friendships. It's occupied by my roommates, right? But I definitely don't leave space in my life for another person to come in and share life's burdens with me. Unfortunately, most ex-husbands that I've had that really enjoy me doing everything want me to do everything for them forever. Like a mommy. Like a mommy. So it is a point where I eventually have to kind of learn to let go of the reins a little bit in a lot of places. Otherwise, I will just keep getting somebody that I have to pick up after, clean up after, cook for, you know, and do everything for. Can I have some encouragement? I'm someone who's uncertain of their future. When I picture it, it feels empty and uncertain. Unfortunately, when you're in that moment, all you can really do is be in that moment. You kind of need to let that fester and happen and be. I think it's really hard to get out of a bad situation if you don't let yourself feel that it's bad. If it makes you feel any better, I felt this exact way 4 years ago, 3 years ago. And I thought, this is it. Like, I'm never gonna be happy again. I'm never gonna get out of it. I'm never gonna find joy. And I'll have you know, it took a few years, but I'm joyful and happy in a level that I've never really even imagined. And now that I've felt that deep unhappiness and that deep uncertainty, I'm a lot more realistic with my happiness. Whereas before, I've just felt happy to be happy because I was young and I kind of didn't know it differently. But now that I'm older and I've experienced deep unhappiness, I now kind of get it when I experience happiness of, okay, where is this coming from? How long is this going to last? Why does it feel good? You will eventually get back to a normal and a neutral. That is reality. You always are going to be going, you're going to make a new friend. You're going to get a new job. You're going to get something. There's always going to be something that's going to happen and come into your life that will shift you back to neutral. Hitting a big low gives you perspective in a way that you just don't get if things are always good. And also, speaking of volunteering, that's also something that I did. It really helped me a lot 4 years ago. When things first started reopening, I was volunteering at a thrift store that was only volunteer based because they were raising money for hospice care, which is when you have a nurse come to your house, but you're basically a few weeks away from passing. It's more end of life care and not, anything. It's end of life care. And yeah, it just definitely volunteering, being around older people as well, because I volunteered with a lot of people who were already retired, who were also volunteering just for kind of being around young people, getting around stuff. Being around much older people really, 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 really helped. Being around really old people also kind of helps put things into perspective for you, because you'll have an old person tell you about something so traumatic that happened to them. And then they'll say, yeah, but I'm here now. Yeah, but I survived. Yeah, but, look at me. I'm still killing it. Things happen.